What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Random FPV Interviews. Tonight, I'm joined by my good friends ArtimusPrime and Mad Chiller. What is good, guys?
Yo,
What's up,
what's
brother,
good?
man? What's up? How y'all
Chillin',
doing tonight?
chillin'. So, you guys have been friends a while, right?
Well, ever since Rampage,
Yeah, Rampage.
That's what I
we're
thought. I know that's we
camping
got
buddies.
to hang out at Rampage. It was sick.
Yeah, that was a great time.
Remember you and I fixing that? Whose radio did we fix? Remember we had to fix that radio at Rampage? It was you and me, random.
It was crazy.
It was in the tent. We were like trying to download it off somebody's hotspot, like OpenTX or some shit.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to get it going. So where are you guys from? Mad Chiller, where are you from? Where are you at?
I'm in NYC. I'm from the Midwest, Ohio, Indiana area originally.
And what about you, Artie?
Yeah, I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, but I'm from Atlanta, Georgia area.
So
Yeah,
double
man.
A's in the chat. It was Rick's radio, man. I remember now. We had to get it
Yeah,
working with Crossfire.
Yeah, we had to update OpenTX and all that, get the card shit. I remember all that shit. It was fun. It was funny. And it was 95,000 degrees out. And we're like in the tent trying to fucking make it work. It was awesome. That's what's up. That was one of my favorite memories, actually.
That was one. Yeah, that's definitely the best. Well, it's the only event I've been to outside of some races. But man, that was a really great event, getting everybody together. And I mean, I've been friends with a lot of guys since then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had a blast. Rampage was great.
Everybody's gonna have to hit up IO.
Do you? Yeah. When is IO? Is anybody know off the top of your head? Somebody in the chat.
No.
Somebody in the chat will put it up.
Somebody will know. Double A will probably know when it is.
Knows, yeah.
You know, it's funny
Always
because
count on Double A.
you know, IO is always out in Indiana, and my family's out there, and I never make it for whatever reason. Hopefully, it's around when my daughter graduates, and then I can just go out there and kick it for a couple weeks. But yeah,
Make that the excuse to get out there, right?
you know,
Anything, right?
yeah.
It's in the middle of nowhere is the only problem for me. It's just a hell of a drive.
It's not too far from Indy, though, man. It's not too far. No, it's not that bad. Maybe an hour or so, but not too bad.
Double A posted is June 24th through 28th. Okay.
I knew he would know. Speaking of Double A, let's give some shouts out to the chat. We got Hawkeyed, we got Double A, we got Hoop DJ, we got Jack Bear, Max Power, Navy, Paul Butchie K, Richard Doverstein, Rick, and Tony Briz. What is up, everybody?
What's up, chat?
If Wendell's here, that means Nubs is here too. So what up, Nubs? I don't know if you know about Nubs, but
I know nothing about Nubs. What is it? I've heard y'all talking about it the last few days.
Are you hip to Nubs? Do you know Nubs yet, Chris? Have you?
I know who you're talking about.
So Wendell Patton has this alter ego, which is his arm, and he has a sock over it, and he's made a puppet named Nubs because unfortunately Wendell lost his hand, and Wendell flies fucking amazing with him and Nubs, and it's amazing. So Wendell's made he sends me videos almost daily. It's amazing. I wake up and I get these fucking crazy ass sock puppet videos of Nubs fucking talking shit. It's fucking hilarious.
That's awesome.
I got to give us a special shout out to Rick. Rick, the guy's radio we fixed. He's in the chat. What is up, Rick?
What up?
Nice.
Good to see you, brother.
Man, I don't think I've heard his name since Rampage.
Yeah, I can't say I have either. I don't think he's got a big online presence.
What's up, brother? That's awesome. They're coming out tonight.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. So let's get to the very beginning, your very first experience with FPV. Artie, what was your very first experience where you found the hobby?
Man, a good friend of mine, Dan Young, Dangerous FPV, brought over a little, what's the brand of it? I don't know. Anyway, it was a camera drone that had a camera on the front, but it had the screen on the radio. And I saw that. We played with that a little bit while we were drinking at his house one night. And I ordered one the next day, got it to my house, flew it, crashed it about 12 times till it just was kaput. And then went to YouTube to see how to try to fix it. And I came across a Rotor Riot video that was, I think it was called Gorilla FPV. It was with Tommy and Steele. They were diving some buildings downtown in Atlanta. And I saw him going down the building, and I was just like, yep. Ordered my stuff from Banggood the next day, and waited 2.5 or 3 months for my stuff. And I've been doing it ever since, man.
A lot different back then, I guess, as far as the electronics and stuff. Do you remember what electronics were in your first kit?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It was the knockoff SP Racing F3, um, Acon 20 amp or 20. I think they're 20 amp ESCs, and Emax Red Butts, a Rotorite, not a Rotorite, but a Swift camera. It was a Sharpoo like QAVX.
Yep, that's what I started on
Clone.
too.
It was like a V++. I can't remember what brand it was.
Real ACC.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah, I actually still have. Well, I still have the frame. It's warped as all get out, but
Yeah, mine is too. I've still got it too. It won't sit flat on a table, that's for sure.
no, man, that thing curls like a high-heeled shoe, man. But it was
So,
awesome. It took a beating.
what about you?
Who, me? Yeah.
Of course you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I grew up flying various shit most of my life. Started early with control line and got into planes and helis and shit. Flew helis right up until before I moved to NYC. Still flew a few while I was out on the road and stuff, but I was chilling here at the house. Just recently divorced, not in the best of places, truth be had, and I was kind of, yeah, I was pretty high, shall I say, and a buddy of mine that I've known for years, we came up in the Midwest, Ryan Gatesman. We came up in the rave community, DJing and stuff together, and so Ryan and I would go way back, and he hits me up on Discord one night, and he's just like, "What are you doing? You want to play some?" I don't remember. We were playing some game together a lot of the time. It was like Just Survive or H1Z1 or some shit, and he hits me up and he's playing Liftoff. It was like a very super early beta of Liftoff, and I think there may have only been like hay bale or some shit in there. I don't even remember, but I'm like, what the hell is that? What are you playing? And he starts streaming it to me, and I start watching it, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, so then he starts telling me about, you know, what it's actually simulating, you know, FPV drones, and you know, I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing, you know. And he's telling me about how this, you know, how big they are. Like, he's like, yeah, I fly these 5-inch quads and stuff, and telling me about the size. He's like, you could totally fly them in New York, and I'm like, fuck yeah. And so literally, like that, the rest of that weekend, I started shopping and talking to him about what to buy, and the like Monday or Tuesday following, I bought a box of parts, a radio, goggles, everything, and this frame, which I got from Flight Factory in Arizona, because that's where Ryan was. And he was like, I'm flying this, you should get the same shit and I can help you build it. And I'm like, all right, cool. And so this is like this Pure X, like super thick, heavy fucking clunker frame.
Whoa,
That's
dude.
actually amazing. It's like super thick. The ESCs are down here. It's survived. I've beat the living piss out of it. I've torn the top end off and had to replace the entire top end, but the actual frame and lower half has never gotten broken beyond repair. And
Nice,
I have changed the bottom plate a while back, and yeah, it's pretty beat up. And this is my lender quad. Somebody comes over, I got my extra radio and shit, I can let them, you know, get used to flying.
Hell yeah.
But that's it, dude. After that, it was rap. I got that quad, started trying to figure out where to fly it, trying to get used to it.
Was that
And
a pain
then,
in the ass with being in New York City, or were you in
well,
there yet?
yeah, because I didn't know shit about like flying in New York City. You know, I mean, New York City is predominantly no fly zone. All right.
Yeah,
And,
well,
you
that's
know,
what I was thinking because like being
yeah,
from Georgia, like I mean, we just drive. If I drive an hour, I'll hit nothingness at some point, or
sure.
there's a park down the road or something like that. I could always hit up.
Now, bro, so I literally started in this like, I want to say about 150-foot circle that was a designated AMA control line field that's like literally a 15-minute bike ride from my house here. And I had no fucking idea about any place else. I didn't know shit. And I just like did my best with what I could. And then started meeting a couple of people online. And I met very soon after that, I met Bill Brissett from BQE, and I bought my first 3-inch frame off him, and that kind of started opening it up. And I started meeting the people around here and started finding other places to fly. And then Bill, myself, Say, Andrea, and our friend Will would hit up the science center, actually over in Corona Park, Flushing Meadows here in Queens, over by where the Men in Black World's Fair Towers are. But we would fly over by the rocket ships in the science center. There was this little tiny field there, and we just got away with it apparently. And then, as it goes, you start meeting people and finding spots, and started ripping buildings in various places in Brooklyn and Queens.
It's funny you were talking about flying by like a science center or something like that. The best place, like the best park to fly at where I'm from, it's pretty close to there. It's maybe 30 minutes. There's this Telescience Museum in Georgia, and it's the most pristine lawn. Like if you can crash hard as hell in this. Now, I will say turtle mode doesn't work for you. Like it doesn't help you at all because the grass is too long. But my God, the trees are pruned beautifully. It's got like a little, like a lookout telescope kind of center where they usually put like on the side of a cliff or something.
Right.
But it's like in the middle of this lawn. Oh man, this place is so good. I miss it.
The science center that we have, so they had done some tiny whoop races there. ASL did actually early on, and because there's like a little kids play area that they basically used as a tiny whoop track back during one of the maker fairs. And then the next maker fair the next year, I actually raced in the ASL event there, which was cool. But our science center has a couple rockets sitting in front of it. And if you have a micro with a 5-inch, it's not as impressive, but if you have a micro and you go dive it, it's sick. It's so sick.
Yeah.
It's like fucking Saturn. They're the Saturn rockets, man. I was actually gonna see if we can find a picture. Queens Science Center.
Well, that's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah, and then like I don't know, 3/4 mile away is the Men in Black Towers, where now those are proper diving and whatnot. Chaos type adventures over there, and then right close to that is that big globe you might have seen on a lot of the New York guys picture videos. Queens Science Center. Yeah, man. Good times. But that's
what electronics were in your first quad?
My first quad it had an SP Racing FC in it, and then I think my ESCs were 20 some amp DYS, and it's got DY. This is actually mostly the original electronics, believe it or not, to some degree, but it's pretty haphazard. It's got an old LaForge VTX system in it, some old ass run cam Eagle, which is not the original camera. I had some piece of junk in there, and then DYS like 2550s. Which were considered race edition back then. And I never managed to blow up the ESCs in this thing, though. I was pretty amazed. And I literally beat the living piss out of this quad. I can't believe it still even flies. But I've had all of the connectors are ripped off the SP Racing board. I've killed every single one of them.
Nice.
I just kept soldering shit back on and keeping it alive, dude. I think I broke one of the connectors in like the first 2 weeks, if that. And like, I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do now? And so like, I got really good at fixing FCs and doing all that stuff. I think I bought my SMD workstation not long after. Oh, I got something beeping. Sorry.
Oh, hopefully nothing's about to blow up.
Yeah, for real.
So what are you
That
guys
sounds
flying
good.
now?
Well, as far as me, I am flying kind of my standard rigs at Alien 4.5, uh, T motor F40 Pro 2, 1750 kV, Kiss V2, Wolf
Oh, so you're running the
PVDs.
Kiss, the Kiss.
Yeah, and then the other big thing is my Eagle camera. I use an Eagle Micro, but I use it with a GoPro lens, like the RC25G run cam lens.
Right.
It's a 2.5 for a CCD, but it gives you pretty much super view on
Hell
your
yeah.
FPV feed, which just allows you to get closer to things and be more confident.
So there's a
Now,
pro tip for anybody out there. The RP, or is it RP25G?
RC25G run
RC25G
cam
run
lens
cam lens. Run
on
those.
my Micro Eagle. It's phenomenal. I mean, if you're racing, it's not probably not the best, but for freestyle, it's amazing.
There's the rockets I see.
Those are the rockets. Yeah, I found it. So these rockets are chilling out in the science center in the park, and they look pretty small in this picture, but that's kind of what they look like.
That's super cool.
Pretty
I'd like to
sick,
mess
actually.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, so with a micro, it's perfect. Like at the right times of day, there's nobody over there, and you can just go rip them real quick and get the hell out of Dodge. Parks over there have gotten a little more strict about things, so they're trying to keep us in our zone. We have a zone over there, but usually they'll chase us out.
When you have when you say zone, it's just like a spot you can go to there.
Yeah, there's a big
that they
AME
let you go.
field over there
Oh, okay.
and they've gotten it's a big flat circle and it's got some stone areas in it, but we've built a shit pile of obstacles.
That's awesome.
All sorts of shit, dude. And we literally like our AMA, actually our chapter head, Joe, he's really active in racing and things, but he's gotten really into building obstacles. So he's brought over all sorts of stuff and all the guys chip in and we might build kind of like Rampage, but we're not building them out of
Yeah.
2x4s. We're building them mostly out of metal and pool noodles and stuff, like using
more permanent structures.
Yeah.
That's cool though.
But it's like kind of like Rampage. You'll get like half dozen of us out there building shit during the morning and then fucking rip all day. And now we've got quite a few things out there that we actually chain up against a fence at night and leave them. And then a couple guys have got the combo, and we just whoever
Y'all
wants to
have
go
to
over.
do that like PVC in the ground, like where you can stake them in.
We don't usually. The only thing we stake at all is some of our flag stuff. And yeah, flags. That's usually about it. But all the other stuff is pretty easy to freestand. We just built feet on them, and the way we build it, it's all screwed together, so it doesn't really fall apart. They're pretty durable.
Right on. That's awesome, man. They never did anything like that. They had set up some race gates at the AMFA field in Georgia. I haven't been to the one here, but that's all they did. They would just have to take them out every time.
So what are you flying now, Chad?
Well, I mean, I fly a 6-inch BQE Bandolero pretty steadily. That's one of my favorite quads in the world, quite honestly. When I'm flying small quads, I do fly this chroma keyed out GoPro bot effects, this new BQE, which I was testing this for Bill before they released, and I've been flying a lot of this. But my love.
Do you know what the weight of that frame is?
I could tell you. You want to? I don't remember off the top of my head, but I have a scale here. I'll grab it in a sec. I don't like dry weight. I don't know, but you know me, Artie. I have my build table and my scale sitting right here. I even have a camera I can show you. so this is what my love right now is large quads. I'm building a lot of 10-inch, various voltage 10 inches. This is actually a 6S build, actually running Brother Hobby T5 Pro 31 1050 kVs. It's a pretty good size motor, not quite X-Class motor, but nice size. Cam Aeronaut 10x7 bi-blades on a modified bandolero that Gravy was actually looking to fly something a little bigger with put a bigger camera on it. So him and I were talking, and then we ended up reaching out to Bill, and Bill and I talked quite a bit about what could be modified on the bando to make it durable and stuff. And so like this build deck here is actually 4 millimeters. The stock bando build deck is 2 millimeter. So I actually took 2 of them and sanded the facing edges or sides, and then I laminated 2 plates together with aerospace grade epoxy and made a 4 millimeter build deck. And then Bill cut us these 10 millimeter arms. So
are they thicker?
Yeah, these are, I don't remember what stock
12
is
or something.
They're 10 millimeter thick by 12 wide. So it's a 10 millimeter by 12 millimeter arm, which make nice for LEDs.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, dude, this is pretty much your stock bandolero fuselage. I didn't slam it. I needed a little bit more room because I actually wanted to get a double stack in there in the center. So I actually raised the deck. I didn't slam it like the stock bando, and it left me plenty of room for tail electronics. I got a Unify Pro 32 in the trunk down here with some venting. And all of my switcher and RX electronics are in the ass end section right up in here. I use a real pit and a servo PDB board to run these 6S LEDs and turn them on and off with a UART. So instead of using the real pit to turn on and off a VTX or something, I use it to actually turn off my LED strip. So it goes from my LiPo into the real pit, out of the real pit into the LED PDB, and then over to a UART so I can flip it on and off on the switch if I want to run stealth mode. So I've been flying the shit out of this one. Hardwood floor. And then this is my first macro that I built. Just got string on it, which is a stand-in. This is a stand-in design, Slim Nasty. This particular quad with running a session mount and a session 5 with a 2200 or 2200 lipo all up is at 1450 grams. But I'm putting down so much thrust, it's insane. With a 2600, it's 1480. It's 30 more grams with a 2600 on it. But this thing's a monster. It's stretch text. Also 10 millimeter arms. This I had to laminate these arms together. These are 2 5mm pieces. And they're actually cut. You can see how the bottom is. They're cut separately. So it's 2 individual pieces of carbon laminated together with aerospace epoxy, and then this crazy ass bottom plate. Everything else is 3mm, except I think everything else is 3mm. And another amazing. These things are insanely fucking durable, man. Like the only thing I really break is props.
I've tumbled. Those are like $8 or $10 a piece.
Yeah, they're not cheap. Those tri-blades are 5 a piece, and the bi-blades, the aeronauts, are 8 a piece. But I found the aeronauts to be extremely durable. It's a different feel, but I love the way bi-blades fly on a big quad. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I'd rather. I guess I'd rather break a $5 or $8 prop here and there and never break an arm. Like, yeah, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, when you have that much
thrust, man, then the weight doesn't matter nearly as much. Well, I mean, I'm a weight junkie when it comes to mine. I mean,
yeah,
I like it to be in that kind of golden window, 680 or 580 to about 610, 615.
With a Hero 8, right?
Yeah, with the Hero 8, it's all up. It's usually around 610,
I'm just a
615 with
little,
that.
I'm just a little over that ratio in terms of like, I'm on, because you're on 5 and I'm on 10, and you know, I'm a little, not quite, I'm a little over double your weight there, but the thrust that these things can throw down is like, it doesn't even matter.
Ridiculous.
It's like I
It's
can
so
throw
ridiculous.
an extra couple hundred grams
Covers
on this
so
thing
much
and I'll
ground
never
so
even
fast.
realize it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I saw in one of your videos you were having to baby the throttle so the chase quad could keep up with you.
Yeah, the fives, we have a lot of fun doing that, actually. So like myself and another guy, Travis, who also flies a lot of macro, we make up these race tracks just like through the trees. And that's what's different. That's what's awesome about macro, is that the whole world becomes your playground at this point, because, you know, of course you can dance around trees with a 5-inch and you can fly under those trees, right? But when you get in a 10-inch and you feel the difference in scale, it's like now those same tree gaps that are, you know, feel huge to a 5-inch, everything feels a bit smaller. You know what I mean? And when you punch and you're fucking on the other side of the field, you're like, oh, okay. So it's a whole nother scale. Like it's just, it's crazy. And so like now trees and things become a hell of a lot more interesting, and those same gaps and things that you might have found easy to hit on a 5-inch are like, okay, I gotta think a little bit more about this one. Doing power loops through those gaps can get interesting, and like the whole way that works.
Yeah, it's like going from a Lotus to a F1 car.
Yeah, basically. So, but yeah, I mean, so I when I'm running the track that Travis and I tend to run, in the 5-inch guys love the chases, and I have to keep, if I'm flying low proximity at high angle, I still have to keep under like half throttle. Like I'm probably 45, 55 ish, you know, and right around mid throttle, and generally a bit under, just so they can keep up. It just puts
That's cool,
down
man.
nothing, but it just is like, it just wants to go. Full punch out, I can be on the other side of a fucking field like in no time. It's just, it's not like that we're necessarily going all that
so
much.
400 feet would come extremely fast for
Yeah,
you.
it could come quick. Yeah, yeah, it would feel pretty tight. Say at least that's what she said.
So there you go.
You got there before I could.
So what firmwares are you guys flying now?
Oh, for me, man,
Kiss
RC40O. And then actually I just got a Flight 1 build that
Nice.
I'm liking more than I wanted to. And it is whatever the latest Falco X alpha is.
Right.
I don't have a clue. But it's actually pretty good.
What about you?
Probably, well, right now, pretty much 100% emu flight. I have a KISS build on deck. But other than that, I have a couple old race flight and Flight 1 builds, most of those boards are on the bench. I could probably flash them with emu, but I haven't really been using them, honestly. Most of my FCs
Just go ahead and say it's emu flight.
Most of my shit 20 millimeter and up is on a Helio base board. So my 20 millimeter boards are all Helio, and all of my 30 millimeter boards are Helio. All my micro builds, unfortunately, there's no Helio, so I run a few other bits of hardware there, but pretty much everything is running emu flight right now.
Explain a little more about emu flight. I've heard of it, but I don't know a lot about it. So tell us, why should we run it?
I mean, if you don't want to spend a lifetime tuning, you want a little bit more simplicity. If you like a 357 PID feel and that's more of that style tuning to some degree, I think those are some big points. A lot of guys that are flying other firmwares, they might have challenges that, for whatever reason, they're having trouble tuning out, and many of them come looking for a solution, and they flash emu and they don't have those problems anymore. So a lot of the testimony, I guess you could call it, I get on the regular is like, yeah, I was flying X firmware and, you know, I had this or that and da 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 da, and I ended up looking for solutions. Somebody suggested Emu, and I came over to the Emu group and checked it out and decided to try it. And now I'm stoked. For me personally, I'm an Emu pusher. Bot Grinder calls me the Emu pusher, but that's basically what I do. I'm like the PR guy for Emu Flight, and I'm team captain. So I go after, looking for testers. I talk to pilots that are looking for solutions and things like that, and try to help them out. And it's really interesting because I feel pretty good when people like they try Emu and they don't go back to whatever they were using. You know what I mean? My conversion rate, I guess you could call it, is really high because like I love Emu. I've been flying on a Helio based board for ever since they came out, and Emu is like the continuation of what was started there, but doesn't have all the baggage and drama, which is a blessing. So that's,
We don't need any more of that in this hobby.
we do not need any more of that now. And so the Emu Flight community is super chill, extremely helpful, and yeah, super low key really. And we're
So
just trying to do something cool.
Do they make Emu targets for regular boards as well, or just the Helio based boards?
No, they make, so the idea effectively is like a lot of people liked how Helios flew, and some people especially love the race flight firmware on a Helio board. And when Helio closed shop, a little time passed, and a couple devs picked it up and started working on it. And they started working on the IMUF code, which was Helios specific for up until that point. And they started looking at ways to be able to take that code and run it on a single processor board, like your Pyrodrone F4, or even your Revolt OSD, or your Mamba, or your Maytech, or whatever it is you have. They basically started taking the filtering code and porting it over to all other targets. So basically, about the time I joined the team, just before that, the devs had taken, like Betaflight 4.x at the time, and they'd taken Betaflight 357, and they did a bunch of work playing around with it to see which one felt better. And everybody in the testing team and everyone like basically agreed that 357 felt better. So we're like, all right, we're going to start with that flight code. And since everybody liked 357, including the Betaflight people, like we're going to start at 357 with that flight code and work on integrating our filtering and adding our features to that core flight code. So ultimately, after some time, we were able to get that filtering system off of the Helio and onto your standard boards. And that's pretty clutch, because now that's what I'm saying. Like all my micros, my whoops, man, I just flashed a Mobulus 6 with JESC 48 and Emu Flight, and it's fucking unbelievable. It's ridiculous how good this thing flies. And you can get, like, with just running JEC on it, just running that, you get like an extra minute of flight time, because for whatever reason 48K on BL Heli S is way more efficient. And you can take I don't care if you run a Betaflight or you run an Emu Flight, if you put JESC 48 on that fucking whoop or toothpick, you will get like upwards to 25-30% or more additional flight time by just making that.
Is that the ESC protocol?
It only works for BL Heli S ESCs, and there's two guys. There's JESC, and there's another guy, and I'm sorry, I forgot his name, and I feel bad right now because he's also working on it. He's done his version. Somebody in the chat might be able to chime in, but I'm having a brain fart. But that's it. You take the BL Heli S firmware off, and you put JEC on there, or the other J firmware. There's another J firmware, both of which have a 48K version that are free, and that's a wrap, and that's it. And then you fly whatever, and you get more flight time.
Is it Jazz Maverick?
Jazz Maverick. Yeah, you're right. Yep. Thank you. That was Vice. Yes. Thanks, Vice. Fucking Vice. What up?
In the house.
In the motherfucking house, Goon Squad. Fucking, yeah. So either of those, most people seem to be running JESC. I
Does
don't
that
know.
give you the efficiency only on a whoop, or is that also scale up?
I'm seeing it. I built a 2-inch. A couple of us are, we beta test frames for a company, and excuse me, I'm seeing a better improvement on a 2-inch. Excuse me. You won't see any real improvement on a 5-inch. All right, but on, like, I would say definitely 2, maybe 3, but definitely
2.5.
2.5 and down. I think you're really going to start seeing a difference on
Hey,
DLLES.
Double A in the chat had a question. When you put the JESC on, does it give you the ability to still turtle mode?
Hell yeah. Yeah. So my I just flashed my Mobula. If you guys have seen a Mobula, it's it's a fucking little tiny brushless 1S Whoop. And I flashed it out yesterday. I got it like the day before yesterday, whatever. I decided to sit down and flash it yesterday. So first thing I did was I plugged it into Betaflight. I grabbed the dump file just to make sure that I had all the settings in case I needed them. And then I proceeded to flash JESC 48 on it. And then I went straight into EmuFlight and flashed that on it. And then I went straight to the motor tabs and checked my directions. And then I grabbed the Project Mockingbird diff off the Project Mockingbird Facebook group. And I took that diff and threw it on there, and I took out the receiver information because I was using a different receiver. But aside from that, I just pasted in, hit go, and sent it, and it flew fucking great, fucking amazing, actually. Like, I'm just
awesome.
it's like Artie's always saying, it's like, I want it to feel like a 5-inch of the house. I'm like, that's how it fucking feels. It's like crazy, but it's a whoop, dude. I'm just like, yo,
I gotta get one now.
Dude, for real. And the other one that's really hot is that Hummingbird brushless that Newbie Drone's got. Unfortunately, I don't think Newbie Drone generates their own targets, and unfortunately, not sure if they have a target for that yet. But there are targets coming for all the Newbie Drone stuff. Those guys are great, and they are into Emu, and so Patrick, Project Mockingbird's been extremely supportive, and he's been helping us out with all these tunes and diffs and stuff. And so it's cool. I would get one, man. I would think any of the beta FPV boards or the Crazy Bee boards, F4s, definitely go F4 up. But any of those, and very soon all the Newbie Drone boards will have an Emu target on it. So it's really sick. And it just, being winter and like as we were talking earlier, having tons of bad weather, man, to be able to just like rip, micro style in the house, like, and have it feel good, like, it's clutch, dude. It's clutch. And I was surprised because I got the 25,000 kV motors on, and the one I got, and I was thinking I might have to motor output limit on it, but so far I don't feel like I really need to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which
What up,
version is
freakin'?
it? The 7?
Nah, the 6.
6? I think he's gonna get it so we can see it.
So yeah.
Okay, so it's brushless.
This is it out of the box.
Also, side note, go to RDQ to buy that because it's apparently the more updated version.
Well, I mean, we'll see how long that lasts after Chinese New Year's. So we found out, unfortunately,
Newsflash,
that some of the dealers,
coronavirus with the Mobula 6
and your Banggood order. So myself and Vice, who's in the chat, we purchased ours like within a day or two of one another from different retailers, and I was going to buy mine at the same place he got his from, but unfortunately they sold out. So I ended up grabbing this one from RDQ, and apparently RDQ had a batch before I think anybody did. They were like the first one to have a batch, and apparently RDQ's second batch was the updated version and came with better batteries, better antennas, came with an extra RX, a bunch of other shit. But long story short, this is all stock with Emu and Jessica on it, and I fucking love it. And actually, Artie, side note, look, I don't know if you can see it. Bondex, dude. Bondex, dude. So Artie and I were joking because we had this. I found this shit called Bondex, and if you don't know Bondex, it basically comes in a little silver case and a couple little like tubes of this glue. All right, but it's kind of runny. It's kind of like a thicker CA glue, but you put it on stuff and then you run a UV light over it and it fucking sets like within 2 seconds. It's bananas. So I figured out yesterday is if your battery's slipping, you can put Bondix, you sand the frame a little bit, put Bondix on it, and then UV it out, and you can make little lightweight things to make your battery fit tighter.
That's what she said.
Yeah, baby, because that's what you're looking for.
Nice.
It's a nice looking little critter.
It is a little good little critter. Now I'm putting a newbie drone dad hat canopy on it. Got a little better camera protection. I actually have one. And this is the dad hat. Take this damn thing out.
Why do they call it the dad hat?
Because it looks like a dad hat.
Well, fuck me.
There's the dad hat part. There's the bill. So it has a bill just over the camera, and you stick your Runcam night. Oh, that's the other thing about these. If you're not hip, these have the Runcam Nano 3s in them, and they're fire. The camera's fire.
Yeah, I saw some good reviews on that camera.
Yeah, Trappy was talking about on the couch the other night. But I'm gonna do the dad hat on it probably, and I ordered a couple beta meteor frames because I think the meteor frame. Well, they have more colors right now, and I might just dye this one. But
I heard it's also way more durable as well.
I heard I ordered a couple meteor frames, so I heard the same thing.
You flying any whoop size stuff, Artie?
Man, I have one, but the motors are fried. I've never really been into whoops really. When I bought one, it was about 2 years ago, and they've certainly come a long way since. But I've been stuck on 5-inch for forever. I just got I've had a 6-inch in the past, but it really didn't get off the ground for very long. And
That's what she
just
said.
recently. Then I also just built a Project 399 7-inch, the dead cat version. Try to get some, just build a long range build, something for some cruise, nice shots.
Nice.
And
what
that
motors?
does have emu flight. I've got they're fucking great motors. The Brother Hobby Avenger 2806 1300s.
What flight controller?
It is a Pyro F4 with it's the stack. It's
Yeah, the
45
F4
amp
stack and
ESC.
ESC.
Yeah, it's
that's
clean as hell.
That's the dead cat you're telling me about. Had funky yaw until you put emu flight on it, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, so
throw that out there.
Another one I hate to admit to, because this jackass will never let me live it down. So I did run Beta Flight 4.0 with the RPM filtering and stuff like that, and played around with the tune and got it okay. The only axis that I was really having a lot of trouble with was yaw, because of the configuration of the motors, it being a dead cat. I guess I'm not a smart man. But when you yaw, you get about halfway through the yaw, and then it would just have a hard jerk. And just kind of whip it around. It's really strange. But immediately I flashed Emu Fly, took it out, and the tune on it stock, and the yaw didn't have that problem at all. It was almost perfect. I mean, a little bit funky, but again, I equate that to the dead cat.
Well, that's what I was telling him, like a little bit of emu, but like a little tuning, I think we can knock out anything that he's saying with that. There's a couple of unique things about emus. You have two different ways to attack a feed forward type problem, where you have feed forward like you would in beta flight, but you also have emu boost, and there's a little bit of boost on yaw in the stock tune. And so emu boost basically adds a little bit of non-linear gain, a little bit of error to your P term, based on error, so it's based on your sticks. And is that right? I want to make sure I'm saying that right. I need Kevin for this one. Anyways, it adds a little bit of boost to the sticks, to the feel, and so a lot of whoopers use that. Like brushed guys are using that, because on brushed, emu boost is clutch. You can actually lose a lot of the dropout or washout you would experience on a brushed whoop. Whereas, a lot of times when you're turning and stuff, you wash out. Well, with emu boost, if you crank up the emu boost, you can actually tune that out. on a brush tree.
Nice.
And so with situations like a dead cat frame, you put a little emu boost on yaw, and you can knock those issues out.
Got B-Rad in the chat. What's good, buddy? Says he found a insane bando today. That's sweet.
Yeah, he was texting me earlier.
Jealous.
Here's what he was saying. I know. So yeah, so B-Rad lives in fucking Ripper's paradise, and we all hate him for it because he has the best spots in the world.
He's got the boat to bando.
Dude, he's got boat to bando. How fucking clutch is that?
Yeah, and he's a pilot, so he gets to fly around in different areas, is down for a few hours or a couple days at a time, and gets to rip some cool spots in a lot of different places.
We love. Oh, he's going with Redbeard on Monday. Sick.
Nice.
Yeah, we love B-Rad. He was on the show the other night.
Let's talk a little bit about your show. For those people that don't know, they also do a live stream. It's pretty sweet. I've been on it and been around it a little bit. Why don't you tell everybody when that is?
Artie, do the
yeah, absolutely. So we've got our stream between two props. It's every Wednesday at 10 o'clock, right after the Cat and Jake. Is it Cat and Jake?
Yeah, I think so.
Jake and Cat. Yeah, there you go. Sorry, guys. Right after that, yeah, and we just get together and try to talk about tech stuff. Of course, we talk a lot about emu flight. And try to have
Kiss show.
Yeah, we did have. He did appease me by having Alex Fedorov and Alex Wolf on, which, man, those guys are awesome. But we just try to chit chat about what's current and things that we're experiencing in flight, and we love this hobby, obviously. So we just want to share the love and feature some people's videos, and just hang out for a couple hours and interact.
That's on the Mad Chiller channel, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's on my channel at the moment. Yep. Just checking the chat. Sorry, it's a habit. Yeah, being I love helping people. As you probably seen. So like having these conversations live is a really good way to learn, mutually learn. Like bringing people like Alex Fedorov on, or Kevin from Emu Flight, or B-Rad, who's actually a commercial airline pilot. I mean, we're trying to create these environments for really interesting organic conversation to happen, where you're going to learn. I think everybody walks away learning something, usually some cool shit, I hope. Whether it may not even always be like directly quad related, but learning about, like when Brad was on, like talking about his experience being a pilot, stuff like that. Just creating that environment for that conversation to have, and being able to get these conversations going where hopefully we can help answer people's questions and delineate information. Brad came on last Wednesday to talk about the FAA situation, so we could just, we pushed, try to push some information out how people can help, trying to help spread awareness regarding the FAA situation, making people aware of what UFDA crew is doing and the protests they've got going on the 29th of next month in DC. And what other organizations are doing, and just some ideas and strategies of making your comments and things of that nature. So things like that, man. We're trying to spread good, useful information and have some fun doing it.
Well, I've just
go ahead.
Shed some light on people that don't normally get the light shed on them. Bring people on who just may not get the attention that they deserve with the good information that they have to share.
Yeah, I've watched your show before, and I've learned a lot too watching it.
Well, luckily we have Chad, who's just he's a mad scientist, man. He just gets in there and figures out all the ins and outs of all the little tiny technicalities and whatever it may be. So he's always got a lot of good information to share. And, we just try to share the real world experience that we run into, and pay it forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think, you know, a lot of that stems from our own personal beliefs. And then, you know, like the Goon Squad community is, you know, we try to stay pretty neutral in many things. You know, we all have opinions, but and we do express them, but we're not trying to add to the drama of life or the community or any of that shit. You know, we're just trying to have some good combos, grow the Goon Squad community as a place where people can be mutually supportive of one another and help each other out and have good times and make friends and find you know, find common ground with people they haven't met, and you know, whatever, man. Like people are linking up. There's a ton of guys in Florida. There's, you know, bunch of us up here in New York, and then people spread out all over in between, and even you know, Adzo over in the UK representing. So that's cool. You know,
Goon
and
Squad UK. What up?
Goon Squad UK, and
Hell yeah.
yeah, man. So you know, it's I think that's kind of our goals in the whole thing is just like push, you know,
Spread
help
love, man.
spread
Have fun.
love.
Have
Yeah,
fun, man.
have fun, spread love, share information, support each other, right?
That's it, man. That's what it's
Exactly.
all about.
Amen to that.
You know, if I wouldn't have, you know, Ryan, if Ryan hadn't showed me that FPV, you know, being in New York, I may or may not have ever gotten into it, you know. And like I said, I was coming out of a bad depression when I found FPV, and I can't tell you how much it changed my life, and helped me find things, you know, like building and 3D printing and all the shit I've learned and the community and the support and the everything, man. It just added up to like I would feel pretty goddamn good today. You know what I mean? And that's, you know, as someone who was having some major issues with depression, that may not have happened. And so you know, I lost Ryan a little over a year ago, almost 2 years ago, I think now. And you know, I can't thank him enough for what he brought into my life, because I may not even be here if that hadn't happened.
Yeah, that's the other thing is people use this hobby as just a way to clear their head or uh, kind of fix some of those imbalances they may have. And we just think it's important to share that because it's done so much for us
Yeah.
and given us so many outlets. Uh,
Yeah,
so,
it's
yeah,
a very great escape.
that it is.
it's a
It's a
it's a
nice
good
disconnect.
it's a disconnect when you put them goggles down, but it's also focus and learning when you're working and building and you're learning how to flash firmware and program and what PID tuning is and all the nuances that go into it. And, you know, like I said, that led me to 3D printing, and I have 3 3D printers now, and, you know, print crazy shit, which led me to designing my own shit. In many regards, it's a pretty deep rabbit hole, and you can go as deep as you want, you know, and you can keep learning and keep sharing that, you know. Like a lot of the stuff that I make, GoPro mounts and shit, I just put them up on Thingiverse, man. I'm like, yo, you print this shit. If you need a GoPro mount, you know, for your fucking whatever bandolero or whatever, just like print that shit, have it printed, whatever. I don't care. Like I'm just trying to give back, man, because like for me, you know, like I said, FPV brought a big positive change in my life, so I just want to give that back, you know. And it might be small ways here and there, but in, you know, and maybe what's in this crazy brain of mine somebody might find useful, but you know, for me, that's what it's about.
Hell yeah. I respect that a lot, man.
Thanks, Wendell. Yeah, man.
So you've had a little bit of a music career too, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of to say the least. I was, wow. So, you know, growing up as a kid, I wanted to be a rock star like every fucking buddy else, right? And, you know, coming up, and I also wanted to be a DJ. I wanted to be a DJ, rock star, or whatever. And, um, so I got into like, you know, really basic like electronic stuff early on, and started learning how to program. I got into DJing first and foremost as a hobby, and saved my money, worked my ass off, bought my first set of turntables, was ordering records from the UK and Chicago on the regular. Like I would spend half the day on the phone with my buddy in Chicago. He would put needles on a record and set a headphone. He would put the phone in the headphones so I could listen to the records. He would play the record. He would go help somebody. He would come back, flip the record over, put it back on. He would just do that. He would just like literally play me records over the fucking phone. And I would sit there like this, listening to the hottest, like the newest shit that just came in from Europe or whatever, and fucking order up like hundreds of records. That's all I was doing. And got into sampling, started learning how to produce. And that led me on a crazy ass fucking life for almost 20 years. I ended up working in the music industry, and I was in a music studio recording bands, local bands and shit. And I had just quit a job. I had another job previously working at Sweetwater Sound, and a good friend of mine, he still worked there, and he hits me up. I'd only quit like a month or so, and he hits me up and he goes, "You know about these samplers, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know about them samplers." And he's like, "And what about this software?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know about that software." And he's like, "Well, this guy wants to talk to somebody that knows these things. Can you talk to this guy and see if you can help him out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I fucking talked, like, I call this guy, and it's the production manager for Enrique Iglesias. And this is back when Enrique was really young. And he
Please
is like,
listen to how he says Iglesias. It's just
Iglesias.
classic.
And fucking, this is 2 PM, all right? 2 PM. I'm talking to the production manager for Enrique. And he's like, "I want the keyboard tech to talk to you." And I'm like, "Okay," or the keyboard player to talk to you. I'm like, "Okay." So 5 o'clock, this keyboard player calls me, Mark Alexander, still a dear friend. He's like, "Yo, man, you know this, you know that. Like, can you do this? Can you do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude. Like, so what's going on?" He's like, "Well, we need somebody to go on tour because we're going on a tour right now. And the guy that we have is really awesome, but he just doesn't have the technical chops that I need to go to make this work for me on tour." And I'm like, I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "So if you're in, man, I'm gonna let Tony know that you're in, and he's gonna call you back." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I'm kind of bugging out, and I'm like talking to the guy that I'm working for, and he's like, "Dude, if you don't take this gig, I'm gonna fucking kill you." And I'm like, "Okay." I was like, "So I guess this is my notice." and fucking literally 7 o'clock at night, I get a call back, and he's like, "Okay, you've got the job." And this guy talks like the Godfather. He's this older Cuban gentleman. He's like, "Hey, Chad, okay, I'm booking you a flight. I'm gonna call you back in a couple hours. You're gonna leave tomorrow at like noon." I was like, "What? It's 7 o'clock at night. I don't own luggage. I don't have I'd never been on a fucking airplane before." And dude, I literally just go to the mall and buy a I'm like, "What do I need? I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, what do I need?" He's like, "Lots of black clothes." I'm like, "Okay." So I go to the fucking mall and I buy fucking luggage, and I buy some like a fresh pair of Doc Martens or some shit. And I bought a bunch of black pants and a bunch of black shirts and a bunch of black shorts, threw it in the bag, and hopped on a plane the next day. And I was on my very first world tour. And I went fucking everywhere on tour with Enrique, and all over South America and in Europe and fucking
That's ham,
America and shit. And I'm like 23 years old or something at the time, man. And like maybe I was 24, somewhere around there. And I'm partying like a rock star, like with fucking all these supermodels and fucking crazy shit, dude. And it was like literally like just boom. And so I did that for the whatever first year. I did that for like a year and a half, and then the tour ended, and come home, and I'm home for like a month or two and just chilling with my family. And a buddy of mine who's on one of the synthesizer forums back then, which were the BBS system back then, he's like, "Keyboard tech needed in 3 days in Chicago." And I lived like 2.5, 3 hours from Chicago. And I'm like, "Okay, send resume." So I sent my fucking resume, and it was for Duran Duran. And I
nice.
literally, again, dude, fucking literally, I send the thing, and then like the next day I get a message. It's like next day I get a message back like, "Can you be there in Chicago in 2 days?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just came off tour. I'm ready to go." And fucking literally, I just fucking ended up going to Chicago 2 days later and started a world tour with Duran Duran. And then did
Nice.
that for, a while and worked for Duran for like, I don't know, a couple years. And then, yeah, man, I just fucking bounced around after that from band to band, did Sheryl Crow, worked with the Peas, Beyonce. I did the 2005 Destiny's Child
B.
World Tour.
You're on first letter basis with Beyonce.
First letter
B.
basis, B.
I want to be
Dude, I used to have, so that's
with
a good
B.
one. So that's a good one, dude. Like, so when I was on tour with B, I had to have special versions of the sample sets ready because I would play all the extra like samples and stuff that the band weren't playing for whatever reason, like the extra sound effects and all this different shit. But we would have versions that couldn't like that would have little Jay-Z samples in there. But if Jay was in the audience, I had to pull those out in case he decided to come up on stage and sing them live. And you never knew if it was going to happen or not. But I had to be ready for it every single night.
That's crazy.
So like that was something. And then yeah, man, I toured up until about I don't know, man, like 6-7 years ago or so.
What kind of sampler did they use? An MPC?
When B or like Destiny's Child and shit, or like
What kind of sampler?
I've used everything. I've used MPCs, I've used Kurzweil's, a lot of K2500s back in the day, a lot of MPCs along the way. When I did some stuff like R. Kelly and shit, that was all MPCs.
Did you get peed on?
Otherwise, no, but the crowd did. Otherwise, we use like Ableton and shit. We use like Pro Tools and Ableton and shit, and we would play samples from those engines.
Okay.
So it just depended on what we needed at the time.
Wow. Stories.
Yeah, man. But touring's a hard life, bro. And so when I was kind of winding down my desire to be gone, I mean, because you're never home, right? Like you might be home like a total of 2 to 3 months a year. All right. So that's tough. And that's really tough on your brain because and I used to live out in the Midwest. So like when I would be out on the road,
that's tough on your brain, bro.
I would come home to like fucking Indiana and it was like hitting a brick wall because like you're on the road, you're traveling the world, you're partying like a rock star. Go, 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 go. And then boom, you would come home and it all stopped. It was like just putting the fucking emergency brake on and hitting a brick wall and you just dead stop. And you're like, and dude, it's fucked up. But a lot of musicians and roadies end up with major depressive issues because of this. And
right.
unfortunately, that happened to me. And I didn't understand what was happening to me, until I finally saw somebody and started, speaking with a fucking, not a psychiatrist, but the other one. Anyways, a fucking
therapist,
a Jungian therapist,
psychologist.
Psychologist, right? And so I didn't understand it, bro. I mean, but I had mad fucking anxiety and depression, and I ultimately was like, I'm gonna quit touring for a while until I can get my shit together. And I ended up going through a divorce. I ended up doing the whole nine. I fucking just crashed, bro. I was a mess. And then thankfully I started, like I said, I started seeing somebody and I started understanding what was going on. And then it wasn't long after that I fell into FPV and everything started changing.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's helped me out a lot. I have bipolar, depression, anxiety, manic depressive, or where I'll have these manic states of real high energy and just, all kinds of stuff going on. But between getting medicated properly and FPV, I've been able to kind of flatten out, and I no longer have those ups and downs.
I mean, that's awesome. I think that, bipolar is a bit extreme, obviously, but I think that human beings are meant to have some up and downs. I think that's natural, but yeah, I mean, when you have nothing but down for an extended period of time, it's like being in hell.
Yep.
Yeah. And when you have things like I started like anxiety will make you like I would pace. I would pace all the time when I had anxiety, and I like wore a hole in the floor like from pacing back and forth. Like, and it was hard for me to like get up the courage or like whatever, you know, to be able to like, go outside. Like if I had to go somewhere, man, it was hard. I would pace around like before I was getting ready to leave, and you didn't
That's
even
tough,
realize it.
man.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny because like after that, after getting diagnosed with depression, like one of the I stopped drinking completely. I decided that since it was depressive, I was gonna see how that affected me, and I decided to stop drinking for a while to see what happened until at least I got it under control. And that was my therapist recommended. He's like, you know, do you drink at all? I'm like, yeah, I drink, you know. And he's like, you should try stopping and see how that affects you. And I was like, well, you know what? The way I'm feeling right now, I mean, it was good. There were points where, man, I couldn't go outside without having a beer because my anxiety was so bad. And so I was like self-medicating with beer because I didn't know what else to fucking do. And and it turns out that, you know, ultimately for me anyways, it seemed like the alcohol was fueling my anxiety. When if I wasn't drinking, you know, I had it, but then if I drank I felt okay, but as soon as I wasn't drinking I had it again, you know, really badly, and it seemed like it was getting worse after drinking. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna stop. And I stopped like 5.5, 6 years ago, whenever it was. And I was like, you know, I might drink again at some point or whatever. I'll see how it goes. And I just haven't picked it back up since.
Lucky on that
I
one, brother.
smoke, you know, and a little bit of medicine goes a long way, and in that regard. Um, and that's it, bro. And I'm cool with it. I actually like not having hangovers and shit is the fucking best thing ever. Like I don't know. Like I'm not gonna tell anybody to do anything either way, you know, but for me it helps, man. Like I have said, I guess if nothing else, when I see somebody who tells me they have lots of depressive issues, I'm like, how much are you drinking? Because for me, that was a big thing. It really was.
Yeah, I can see that.
I can really relate to you, man.
So like, you know, it's again, those are things that I have no shame in fucking telling people like I was a fucking mess, bro. I was a fucking mess. And I feel like it's night and day. And like you don't even realize it like at the time until in retrospect, everything, you know, hindsight's 2020, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you're in the middle of it, dude, especially like, you know, like literally partying like a rock star for the better part of 20 years, you don't realize what you're doing to your system. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you're in the middle of it, you have no fucking clue. You don't really care either. You know, you're caught up in all that, you
Yeah,
know?
not at all.
And so, oh,
B-Rad
B-Rad,
says
stop
he
drinking
stopped
it.
drinking in '83, man. Way to go, B-Rad.
Right on.
Yeah, it happens, dude. It can take you to dark places. I
I
mean,
got
anything
straightened
can.
out right when I found out my wife was pregnant. It's
Yeah.
about the same. It was about 5.5, 6 years ago.
Good
Um,
game on you.
but it took me a while to get on the right like mental medication. I went through a bunch of different medications to finally find something that worked okay for me.
Mhm.
But now that I'm on something that works good for me, I'm great.
That's awesome. I mean, I will share a little side note. I probably about a year after I started doing therapy, I went and saw a shaman, and I went upstate in New York, and I spent time with the shaman, and I ultimately did a DMT ceremony, and that was a pretty big shift. And the afterglow from that lasted an incredibly long time, but it seemed to lay the foundation for the road of not for me. I didn't end up having to take pharmaceuticals.
Right.
I you know I would never go either way with the recommendation of a doctor. I would never, you know, disagree or whatever, but I'm just saying like I did that, and that was a there was definitely some change there.
Funny you say that, man. Back in when I was in high school, really right before I was in high school, I had a lot of anxiety and depression and things like that. And shortly after that, got into eating mushrooms and LSD and whatever other nonsense,
Mhm.
hallucinogenic I could get my hands on. And it certainly changed my perspective 100%.
I'm a proponent for
And I was
microdosing. I think that
I did it for about 3 months last year, and then anyway, it worked really well for me. It's one of those things. It just gave me a better perspective, for lack of a better term.
So after I did the shaman thing, I did a microdosing regimen just probably close to a year. Again, you want to take time to integrate those types of experiences. I think that's clutch. I think people that get abusive with these types of things they can run into just as many problems.
It's all about like in excess of
moderation.
bad for you. Moderation is
of course, but integration of that kind of experience, especially DMT is a whole nother level. If you've never done it, like somebody was like, I think I might have done it once. I'm like, no, there's no thinking.
There's no thinking.
There's no thinking in that experience. If you do that, you experience
you
that,
either broke through or you did not.
know. And depending on which of the two varieties you take, you're gonna have two different experiences. But having said that, like microdosing is something that I am a proponent of. I don't do it very often. I did it I took about a year, and I decided I'm gonna do you want to do about 5 to 6 weeks actually, and then you want to wait at least 5 to 6 weeks before you do it again. I only ended up doing it the one time, but again,
3 months straight.
Yeah, I mean you can, but it's not. You're not really giving yourself the. I mean, I guess if you did it 3 months straight every 3 years, you know what I mean? But the idea behind microdosing is you literally want to do it for about a month to a month and a half and then stop and let yourself integrate. Because what's happening behind the scenes is a whole nother ballgame. And
what I would do I would have days off. So
you're supposed to
I would do 5 days a week. I would take a certain, or like the first day would be one dose, the second day would be slightly bigger, and then after 5 days, or sometimes it would be in between, but there'd be 2 days a week that I didn't.
The way it was always
dose at all.
The way it was described to me and the way that I did it and the way I recommend people do it is that you want to take the equivalent of a tenth of a dose, whatever one hit is of whatever, if you're using streams or whatever, you take a tenth of a dose every 4 days, and you do that 10 times, and then you stop. And then because the idea behind it is it shouldn't be perceptible. You shouldn't feel high. You shouldn't feel anything hardly. What you will notice is like just a little twinge, just a little twinkle, just a little smidgen. And that's like the most even that you want to even be perceptible. And then you wait 4 days and let that integrate, and then you do it again. And then at 4 days and 4 days and 4 days. And anyways, ultimately that's the regimen that I recommend to people that are interested. And I'm very stoked to actually see Oakland and places like that decriminalizing Colorado, parts of Colorado now. Like I think it was Denver, right? Denver and Oakland, and then someplace else just in Cali, and then I think Vermont has it on the bill statewide to decriminalize. So there's definitely medicine there, to be had, and it's unfortunate that its legal status is a fucking mess.
Well, I mean, you got to think about pharmaceutical companies. I mean, they can't make nearly as much money off something that just grows out of the ground.
I mean, I think that
you don't need R&D for that.
With marijuana reform pushing the way, I think it's a matter of time. And the reality is that even pharmaceutical companies are realizing it, and they're making variations of things, and they're taking things like ketamine apparently is really good for depression. And there's actually legal FDA approved prescribable ketamine sniffer thing that it's liquid, and it's like sinus medicine that you would normally use, and it's nasal inhaler, and you do it whatever once a day or whatever, and it's just like a little bit. And they're doing it now. They're starting to do it with mushrooms or something too. Like they're taking like a version of that for depression, prescribing it for depression. And so the medicine is there. And yes, unfortunately, pharmaceutical companies are also the big fucking wall in the way for legalization, because they, you know, if human beings realize that they could get a good portion of their medicines from the earth, then what do you need them for? Right? What do you need pharmaceuticals for? But
Right.
again, you know, if you have fucking a tumor, you obviously need somebody to cut it out. So you need medicine. You need medical assistance, right? But in terms of actual some medicines, some medications, you know, certain, you know, tribal communities have been using these medications for very spiritual and psychological reasons for thousands of years. You know, when people were depressed or something, I think in some of those communities, they were probably looked upon as like they had some sort of bad spirit or something going on, and they would have the medicine to help get rid of them. It's interesting. Didn't mean to sidetrack on a psychedelic conversation. I didn't expect to, but that's yeah, man, it's an interesting little side fucking topic.
It's all good. I've had some pretty intense experiences myself, so no worries.
Awesome.
What's
So, you guys got any guests coming on this week on Between Two Props?
This week is probably not actually this week. We are gearing up for our big BQE giveaway, which should be actually a week from this Wednesday. And we're looking to have a couple of pilots on, and hopefully Bill's going to come on and talk to us about that. I'm still locking that down, so that's why I haven't been committal about the giveaway exactly yet. But we have an amazing BQE Stormer race special edition that we're giving away.
Wow.
Package as well.
The TPU package and some custom Goon Squad glow in the dark gimbal guards that I made. That I think I could put. Oh nope! Whoops, wrong one. We're giving that away.
Boom. That's nice.
Stay tuned so you can hear how to win.
Yeah, man. So we're TPU package, glow in the dark guards, all that.
So what do you got to do to enter?
We're gonna give it away. We'll put it. I'm gonna post up the details, but you know, just probably like and comment on the post or whatever.
Okay.
Come watch the show. Hopefully,
we'll try to get that up this week so everybody can start.
Put in the details of the giveaway. You must be present at the stream to win.
There you go.
Get them viewers.
You know, it's one of those things. Like, it was funny because we just did a giveaway with Steve from Fat Straps, and I was like, I just want to make it like, you know, like it, share it, make a comment so I can keep track of you. And then Artie's like, make them sub, and I'm like, sure. I was like, you think I should? I was like, I thought about it, and I was asking him, I'm like, should I make it that way? I don't know. Sometimes I hate having to put those conditions on there or whatever, but I mean, we are trying to grow something, so it's like,
right. Might as well
give them an incentive, anyways, you know. And like I said, hopefully they enjoy it and keep watching. So, you know, it's a win-win.
Exactly. But a fresh giveaway coming up, and that's about all that's going on with the show. Just trying to get more people involved.
We're trying to get it, you know, pre-planned out a couple weeks in advance, which is challenging, as I'm sure you know. You know, trying to lock down guests and keep ideas fresh.
Yeah, Random. What are some good stream tips? I mean, you're like,
just go with the flow, man. Just go with the flow. I have trouble planning things, so I don't have a lot of tips really. You guys are doing a good job.
Thank you, man.
But I say just go with the flow.
Right on. Well,
speaking of flow, I'm gonna show some videos of you guys' stuff in the background now.
Where?
Oh, dope.
Up first, I've got Emu Flight on my BQE Bandolero 6-inch by Mad Chiller.
Oh, that's like my first one, probably. Funny.
It's good.
It is good.
You're flying around in a looks like a baseball field.
Oh yeah, that's Flatland City in Highland Park. We call that Flatland City in the park where myself and a bunch of the goons fly here in New York.
Okay.
Is this the one that's got the crazy 2810 motors on it?
Yeah, at this point it had 2607.5s, I think, on it. But
So you got bigger. That's
yes, I
awesome.
went bigger than this.
You were
Yeah.
already big and just took it up a notch. Took it to 11.
I was trying to figure out that I think this was like, yeah, the first day that I flashed emu flight. And that's why I was like, dude, this shit is fire. Like, I was like, this is stock too. And this is like, no, I didn't do shit. I literally just, I think I set W to 64 at the time for it being a 6-inch, which W is a little filter setting that you kind of set based on the size of the craft. And
Right.
I didn't touch the PIDs at all.
128 on 7 inches, by the way.
128 on 7-inch. Yeah.
That's 7 life.
You were getting it in the video, bro.
Thank you.
Jerking it around.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of prop wash and shit, like it's just amazing.
And do you find that is that because of the bigger props? It just seems like you get less?
No, man, because my 5-inches are flying like this too. It's like, if I have one, the Gatesman frame that was named after Ryan when Ryan passed away. That's one of my favorite 5-inch quads, period. And that quad has 0 prop wash on a stock tune out on emu flight. It's bananas crazy. It just doesn't break loose. There's no prop wash. It doesn't wobble. It doesn't do shit. It just flies fucking amazing. Yeah, it flies fucking amazing. I flash it. That one's got W set to 32, I think, and then just fucking sent it, man. That was it.
There he is. Look at Stevie Wonder over
flying
there.
backwards. Yeah, totally. Head down, Stevie Wonder.
Don't worry, I'm a little Ray Charles myself.
Yeah, it gets that way.
I actually point my patch antenna straight up in the air on my goggles, and my wife's like, "What are you doing? That's pointed straight up in the air." And I'm like, "Yeah, but trust me, when I lean out with it, it'll be pointed out towards where it's supposed to be."
Exactly. I know. You can either be looking at the ground or fucking Stevie Wondering. Totally.
I will tell you, I never realized how much I did it until I got these Orca goggles. So I've got they have a like a gyro in it, basically. So it tells you when you dip past 35 degrees.
It gives you a little beep.
Yeah, it gives you a little alarm.
Oh, that's sweet.
It is. I mean, it's cool, but it's really annoying because it beeps more than I want it to. I'm like, oh shit, pick your head up.
Yeah.
Now, is this a Helio in this thing?
That is a Helio. Yeah, that's a Helio AIO, and on some old ass Wraith V2s.
That's what I got on my 6. Except I got one of those Airbot. Oh, what was it? It was the first generation where they had the soft mounted gyro in the gel, and that cable got messed up, and so I replaced it. And it would just never work right again. I replaced the gyro, everything.
This quad is my favorite quad, bar none, and it's a 6-inch Bandolero. It is definitely that's like my favorite quad to fly. I beat the living shit out of it. I've broken arms. I've I ripped the GoPro mount off at the Bando over in at Pilgrim State Mental Hospital. I ripped the GoPro like off the fucking frame. Ripped all the TPU apart. It was crazy. I've rebuilt it like 3 or 4 times now. It just won't die. And as Artie mentioned, I'm now running 2810 1500s on it. So Brother Hobby special. They were specially wound tester motors that we were checking out. And Travis tried them on 7-inch and he didn't like them. And I'm like, give them to me. Let me fucking try them on the 6-inch. And I fucking love them. They added 100 grams to my quad, but like, dude, you could be falling like full velocity straight towards the ground and you can blip the throttle and you'll just go and just stop and just fucking take off and go in another direction, dude. It's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. It makes me want to try some really monster motors on like a 6 or a 5-inch.
Well, yeah,
to see what happens.
Like people thought I was nuts when I was running 2607s. They're like, why are they so big?
And I was like, you're nuts.
And I was like, bro, you have no idea. They fucking run amazing. And I got stuck in a tree and I ended up fucking burning one. And yeah, they couldn't get a replacement on them on the stators. So I need to rewind them at some point because they're awesome. But having said that, the Brother Hobby 2810s are monsters, and I tend to lean towards the larger stator sizes. And I just haven't, if I'm building a 5-inch, I'll probably build a 2306 or a 2207. But depending on what I'm doing at the time. But anything past that, I'm going pretty large, like 6-inch. I'm going to stay around 1600 kV tops on a large stator. On 7, I would go down where Artie's at, like 1300. But really, man, I jumped straight from 6-inch straight to 10-inch. And the next thing I build this year will probably be a 12 or a 13-inch 12S. But I want to keep it at around 600 millimeters on the wheelbase. So like the stand-in quad I showed you is a 405 millimeter wheelbase on 10-inch, and that's a sick fucking wheelbase for the size of the quad. And it's a purpose-built 10-inch. It's like the way it should be, you know. I mean, nothing at all against the way X-Class guys do it, but I'm just not a big fan of tube arms and shit. I love carbon plates, man. I want to see the fucking carbon. I mean, I don't know. It's just my thing.
No. I aesthetically, I'm not a big fan of the tubes and things of that nature. But
yeah,
Yeah, me neither. I prefer the flat sheet myself as well.
And well, like Stefan from Stand-In builds like 600 millimeter carbon frames that are purpose built for like 13 and 14-inch props. Fucking 12S monsters, man. It's just insane. Like Matt Beardsley is like flying around aircraft carriers carrying some sort of, he's got a Z cam or some shit on it, just flying around this fucking crazy 13-inch quad. Like it's like nothing. It's like carrying a GoPro on something like that, dude. It's like, what? You know what I mean? He's got a full frame camera on top of the fucking thing, capturing wicked cine, and it's like a 5-inch. It's just it's bananas.
Yeah, I'll get crazy with those things. I want to build one real bad. Probably I probably want to get one of those BQE.
Well,
which one?
The BQE 10-inch, like he's got.
Yeah.
Those just look sick. Either that or the Rebel just came out with a frame, the Yeti frame. I'm real tempted on that one. I love all their branding, and their designs are just super sick.
So I'm in the process of tearing this down right now. I've been actually really slack. This is a box frame, okay, and I was actually just working on, what was I doing? I was just kind of going through and looking at the electronics around it. I grabbed this off a friend of mine, and as it sat, and I'm tearing this down to put a Helio on it. And then this PDB and these ESCs are going away, and the APD 8S system's going on this. So this is going to be this frame all up will probably be around 1450 to 1500 grams, but it's going to run 8S on 220.
Holy shit.
2200 4S. So I'm taking two 4S 2200s and put them in series. This frame before packs with props on it sitting at about 750 grams. So 750 gram build out. That's my target. I want to stay right around 750, maybe 800 on the build out, and then it will come in with the pack. Should come in around 14 to 1500.
So you want to break the sound barrier is what you're trying for, right?
I have a feeling that this one's going to tear a hole in space-time, bro. It's like,
rip a hole in the space-time continuum.
Yeah, I mean, look at the camera. Look at this camera angle, bro. It's like, what the fuck? I'm trying to do this backwards. Look at this camera
it's slightly beefy.
It's going to be nuts. It's going to be crazy. So I'm excited about this one. This one's coming out. This will be my spring builds. Like, I want to try to have this done over the next week, and then as the weather gets nice, I'll be ripping this. And then I would say probably beginning of summer, I'm gonna build out the 12S.
Oh yeah!
If everything goes well, and that I probably will run two 6S 22 or 2600 in series, and see where that gets me. But everything that I've been building in these classes have had really high thrust to weight ratios. I think these brother hobbies with a tri-blade put down like 4,000 or 5,000 grams a pop, And if you
Really?
it's insane,
Jesus.
dude. It's
Bro,
insane,
it's 4 times what we have at 5 inches, you know?
bro. So like, yeah, I looked at a couple charts at one point, and I didn't see the exact prop I'm running, but I know it's up in there. And yeah, I mean, dude, you're putting down 20,000 grams of thrust on a 2,000 gram quad. You're easily 10 to 1 or more. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And that's what I'm building. When I built my racing builds, I always went for over 10 to 1 thrust to weight in my build out. So before, as I was selecting parts, I was looking at the motor specs and the props and things and thinking about what it was going to be. And I'm a really slow builder. Like I will, if this frame if it didn't already have shit on it, I'd probably be a lot further along. But first, I'll get the frame prepped, start getting my motors, get my motors on it, shit, and start laying that out, and then I'll just like pull the motors wires and I'll tape them so I can get them to start training them to lay flat and lay straight. And I'll leave them sit there. And while I do that, I'll start looking at other things like how am I mounting the camera? Do I need to design something and print it? How am I mounting my VTX antenna? Do I need to design something and print it? And when you do that, like I might design something and I'll print it. And I'm
Very
like,
purpose built.
then I try it. And then I'm like, I don't like the angle, the way the SMA works. I got to change it. So you move some shit around. It might take you 2-3 revisions before you get it the way you want it. And then, so pretty much every one of my quads has parts on it that I've built purposely for my methodology to get what I was looking for out of the
Straight
build.
up mad scientist right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, man. And so I and it helps people like Bill, for example, like having these conversations with him. I'm like, yo, dude, like I like doing it this way, and like I changed this part this way because I wanted to get LED wires through there or some shit. So just having, so I don't care, whoever frame manufacturers that you might have a relationship with or whatever community you're into, like for I love working with people like that because then their products can hopefully grow from your experience as well. Give them your feedback. Um, aside from going, oh, this is trash, like when you guys give somebody constructive feedback, then that gives them an opportunity to actually act on it. And
Do something with it, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of people get far away from that. Instead of giving constructive feedback, they just give feedback. Like
mm,
that's where people mess up.
Touche, sir. Touche.
yeah, and like for me, like Bill Brissett is a very good friend of mine. I've known him for quite some time now, and just spent a few days with him out in LA about 2 months ago or so. And um, we used to hang out quite often until he moved to LA. So now he's on the opposite side of the country. But I talk to him pretty much every single day, and it's nice, man. Like I've always been a big BQE supporter. I don't strictly fly BQE frames. Most of my racers are Korea Ria frames, but all my freestyle stuff predominantly is BQE, and
Tough as
since
nails.
yeah, they're hard to beat, man. I mean, there's a reason why Doug and all the other guys are on there, and flying those frames. 'Cause
Super durable,
they're durable, and
heavy.
Bill's a tinkerer too, man. Like he listens to what I'm telling him and he's got his own ideas, and like he's constantly sending me, what do you think about this TPU? Do you like the color? Do you like the way this lays out? Like, you know what I mean? And like I'll tell him, yeah, I like that, or yeah, or whatever. And it's dope to be able to have that relationship and like a working relationship where, too, there's times where he'll be like, yo, check this file out. Can you print it and tell me how this works for you? And I'm like, yeah, bet, and he sends it to me and I fucking print it. And then like when I'm making like GoPro mounts or some shit, I'll be like, yo, check my file out. What do you think? Print it out, stick it on Bando or something and see what you think, And so it's sick to have that kind of a working relationship where you can grow together and learn from each other and give each other advice and shit. And the BQE community specifically is fucking awesome. So it's like,
Makes it easy.
yeah, yeah. And I would say that, the BQE community, the Korea Ria community is awesome. If you're into racing, Korea Ria vert carbon frames are pretty top notch for racing. Um, Wendell, who's watching, flies their Kia, which is their freestyle frame. Pretty unique, interesting frame.
It's the one with the wings, right?
Waffle wings.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I keep sending Artie Wendell's videos every day, because Wendell sends me videos of his Kia, like showing me how he's showing me how his tunes come in, and like, so I'm like, yo, Artie, check out Wendell's Kia, dude. Look at this on emu, getting good, dude. Look,
Again, the emu boot, the
the
pusher.
emu pusher.
No.
I mean,
Gotta
bro,
put emu on that thing.
it's easy when you like, you know, when all right, I wouldn't like something if it was garbage. All right. I have very, if you look at pictures of my builds, like I have attention to details, right? And I'm very detail oriented, and I want things to be a certain way, and you know, that's my nature, right? And so when I get on a like firmware or something, and I'm wanting my quad to be a certain way, I've spent all this time making it look fucking pretty, I might as well get it to fly fucking nice too, right? So like, you know,
Amen.
it's like one of the things, like I'm gonna go with what I feel meets that goal, right? And if I like something, then I in turn become passionate about it, and I, you know,
Absolutely.
I want to share that with people, because if I'm like, yo, if this gives me this much joy, maybe you'll get the same joy from it as well, you know.
I think most people feel the same way as far as that goes. When they find a firmware that just really connects with them and they're able to navigate it properly and,
Mhm.
make actions and get the result that they're looking for. I mean, and that's why you have everybody so firm in different camps, because you get used to something, you learn it, you really get to know it, you really get to realize how it functions, and
Mhm.
because that just takes time with all of it. It's not an instant thing. It takes long enough. I mean, as somebody who's not an engineer or somebody who codes and is a mathematician in any way, shape, or form,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm a high school dropout. I just push around wood. Like tuning took a ton of time to figure out.
Learning to build guitars takes a ton of time too, though, bro. You know, so.
It's just carpentry, bro. Smoke a good one, and
Intricate
just everything
carpentry.
slows down for you. No worries.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like for like me for building quads too. Like, you know, mad tedious, mad
Yeah,
method.
yeah. Well, and my builds are the same way. I just like a good, clean build because working with guitars, and especially kind of complicated pickup setups, it can be something as stupid as a wire is crossing a different wire that causes a little bit of crackle in the signal,
Yeah, or
uh,
hum. Yeah.
or hum, or something like that. So just
Yep.
making sure that the solders are good and everything's run in such a way that it's not going to interfere. Although
Mhm.
that only became a problem as far as like interfere with gyros and things since I got onto Helio, which is another story. But uh, just paying attention to those things and building as cleanly as you can, and is you know,
I think
that's
it's. I
just
think this.
helps you in the long run.
I think that, well, to your point though, bro, I mean, like, you know, people with video issues, like I'm constantly kind of give people advice on, you know, I have a methodology for wiring video,
And it's right.
and it fucking
Just
works.
do that.
It works, you
Yes.
know. So like, and that's honestly talking about Helio though. The funny part about that is the way, you know, part of my methodology is I don't care what FC you use, right? Just make sure that that FC has fucking a VBAT tap on it, right? So when you're buying a fucking FC, I think it's easiest this way. You can obviously look at 5-volt VTXs, but we're gonna put those on the side for a second. I only run HV VTXs, okay? Unless I'm on a micro, okay, and I can't. All right. But having said that, I only run HV VTXs on anything that can handle it. And I only run flight controllers that let me solder that VTX to it. Okay. I don't go to the LiPo. I go to the flight controller, and my camera goes to the VTX. So I run a lot of unifies and things of that nature that are HV in and will send a solid 5 over my camera. Preferably with a nice fat Beck in case I want to run something else off them. Like the Pro 32 has a 2 amp Beck. You can run your whole rig off the fucking thing if you need to. But having said that, what you're looking for is a straight line path. What's your input? It's your fucking camera. And where does it ultimately need to go? To the ground, which is your battery. And what you want to do is go from your camera to your VTX to your flight controller to your ESC or PDB, depending on what that part is there, and then to your battery, right? If you're using single ESCs, those are kind of factored out in that equation, but that's it. That is the way to do it, because that gives you from your camera to your battery a straight line. Okay. It's when you start spider webbing and doing weird things with your grounds, and you create, if you start looking at, actually even in your wiring, you start creating circles. When you start creating circles, you create what's called a ground loop. And if you have a ground loop, you are going to get roll and weird shit in your video. And so I've stuck with this methodology for myself personally for years, and it has never failed me. And even trying to adhere to that as closely as you can, even when using a 5-volt system, like, I would, if you have room in a micro, I would almost just say get another Beck and run your VTX and camera off that, but make sure you somehow bond it to the FC. You want to make sure your ground travels to the FC. That way you don't have any OSD flicker or any weird shit there. The idea ultimately is to try to create a straight line from the beginning of your video source to grounds. That's the ultimate idea, as best as you can do.
Makes sense. Appreciate you sharing.
Freakin' says twist your video wires. Yeah, some people do that, and some people do that with your signal wires on high volt, on ESCs, high volt signal. If you're running, especially like with
not so much anymore. The ESCs are much better now. Flight controllers are much better now.
That's true. That is true in smaller craft, but if you start building 12S or 8S,
oh yeah, for sure.
There's so much power there that those guys. I've had some good conversations with advanced power devices. The advanced power drives, they we've had some conversations about shielding properly. If you don't shield your signal and telemetry wires properly in those high voltage systems, you can have packet drop. And so those are some things there that I'm actually working with those guys right now to look at some ways to help shield on some of the high volt systems with some of the EMI flight boards like the Helios and things like that.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, up to about 6S, man. You're probably okay. I've never had any telemetry.
I've never had any issues, especially since running Wolf PDBs.
Mm-hmm.
They're just really well laid out.
Well, having filtering and caps and all that sort of thing is clutch. ADP gives you a cap for each ESC, and there's caps on the PDBs. Generally speaking,
I run KISS 32s, and I run a 470 50 volt.
On the PDB,
50 volt, yeah.
On the PDB,
yeah, on each ESC.
Oh, you're doing it on each ESC? Okay. So like APD's running like 330, 50 volts, 330 microfarad, 50 volts on their on a lot of theirs. And then you want to put something on your PDB, which I actually filter. If I'm running singles, I run 5 caps. I run one on each ESC and one on my mains, across the mains on the PDB. If I'm running a 4-in-1, I just run one on the mains, and that's it. It's less of an issue with a 4-in-1. But having said that, I think that caps can make or break a build, believe it or not. One of my friends, Travis, got a batch of fucking, well, we're supposed to be Panasonic, ultra low ESR caps and stuff. And I would say that maybe 60% of them seem to work okay, but he got some duds. He bought like 10 at a time. He probably had 3 or 4 duds in his batch, man. And he was having crazy issues. Like, he actually gave one to a friend of ours. That guy put it on his macro. And every time he'd punch out, his fucking Unify would just reboot. He would just brown it right out, and fucking it would reboot. And because the cap was no good, and it was just spiking the piss out of the Unify, and the Unify was freaking out. It would just, like, I think it might have actually just been like thermaling out really quickly or something, but it was just flipping out. And I'm
Maybe
like,
you're having an issue like that. I've got one that, for whatever reason, I thought it might be my goggles, but every once in a while it'll just go gray screen, and it'll come right back. As soon as I drop power.
Are you losing OSD when that happens?
No.
That's a tough one.
Yeah,
because what can actually happen is your camera can go dead before your VTX necessarily does as well. So depending, you know what I mean? And I've also had it where I've just, as a when I was racing, I've just smacked my fucking camera on a gate and just barely broke the fucking JST on the back of the camera board, or just like broke the solder, and had all sorts of fucking stupid harebrained problems until I finally found that. Same kind of shit where my camera would go out in a punch and it was just the momentum of the quad jacking that JST around. But
maybe that's what it is.
But with Trav's build, like, and our friend Mendy's build, like, they were just straight, like, their unified was literally, it was shutting down and coming back on, and literally, so I'm like talking to him, I'm like, dude, pull the cap out, throw your ohm meter on it. What do you got? Because what you should have is, you should have like very low, and it should climb to infinity. It should go to like infinite resistance basically as it charges, and then discharge the cap, put your meter on it, check it. The other thing is you want to check it for that, and then you want to check, just do a quick continuity, a tone check across it to make sure there's not an internal short. And then you're ultimately looking at the resistance to see that it's climbing, because that's what happens when a cap charges. The resistance goes up, okay, and as it discharges, it goes down. And so you need to look at those two elements, and if the cap does anything but that, you can get an ESR meter and check that shit out and stuff. And I don't know that that's absolutely necessary. If you have a Rubicon or a good Panasonic FM or something like that, you got them from a reputable vendor or whatever, you should be okay. But definitely, even before you build it, check your cap right quick. Make sure it works before you even put it in, because there's nothing more annoying than having some weird ass problem on a new build because you had a bad cap. And there actually was I think it was like a class action suit, because one of the cap vendors shipped out a shit pile. I'm talking about like a shit pile of caps, like a massive amount of bad caps. And those caps made it into devices, and the return rates and repair rates were so astronomical. There was like a fucking lawsuit.
That's crazy. I did have a cap one time. It was the first time I ever blew one up. But it was actually, I was building an amp for a guy. And whoever made the cap, I think it was an orange drop. They had labeled it backwards. And then I put power to it and tested it. And you would have talked about a bang, brother. I mean, this was serious.
I studied electronics. I went to tech school and studied electronics, and I spent a good portion of my time in lab just putting caps in a fucking power supply backwards and flipping the switch and ducking. Like, I used to blow them up for fun, like big fuckers. We would go find the biggest caps we could find and blow them up just for the fucking fun of it.
They look like troll doll hair.
Fucking freakins, like, test it on your tongue. Don't test it on your tongue. But yeah, man, simple things like that. I've also got, so on big rigs right now, I'm running what's called a transient voltage suppression diode. I don't know if you've seen those, but TVS diodes, man. So effectively what they're doing is they'll have a rating, and I think the ones I'm using are rated at like 28 volts for success. And effectively what that means is that anything above like 28 volts, it's gonna suppress, and it's gonna knock it down to ground. So you literally strap it across your your pads in between your LiPo input, and you use it in conjunction with a capacitor. But what it's doing, so anytime you have a motor, okay, this is important on a big ass fucking quad like this, okay? So your fucking ESC pushes the motor the way it's supposed to go, right? But what is happening, I mean, a motor, if you were to push a motor by hand or stick a drill on the end of the shaft and spin it really quick, the motor becomes a generator, okay? Because motors are actually fucking bi-directional. So when current pushes a motor, the motor is pushing back with current that it's generating, and we call that backfeeding, okay? And a backfeed voltage on 4 motors added up can be greater than the input voltage. So you're sending 26 volts to it on 6S, but you might be getting 40 something back at times, okay? So that backfeed is what kills your fucking VTX. That backfeed is what fries shit in your ESC. That backfeed can be very problematic, okay? And so by using a TVS, so we've always kind of addressed this with capacitors, because a capacitor does act as a filter and can help bleed that off to ground. But a diode does the same exact thing and can be a limiter. A capacitor is almost like more like if audio, or you know audio. If you know what the difference between a compressor and a limiter, A limiter is a brick wall, and a compressor just kind of gently pushes you down. That's what a cap's doing. Cap is more trying to be gentle, and it's working more in the frequency of that voltage fluctuation that's coming in. But a fucking diode is like a brick wall. So when you throw a diode in there, it just says, yeah, if you're over this voltage, you're going back to ground. Fuck you. And it's just bleeding those high voltage spikes. And so what I've found anyways on my rigs, on a big motor rig, since I'm getting so much backfeed, that's why these VTXs are freaking out. That's why people are killing them and having them brown out and do weird shit. So drop a TVS diode in there. That diode cuts it off at whatever, 28, 30 volts, whatever. Now your cap is only dealing with that much voltage. Your cap is no longer dealing with 48 volts or 42 volts or whatever all the backfeed is, all the spikes and shit are coming back. The TVS diode will cut them off at 28 volts or whatever it is, and then the cap just has to deal with that much, and it makes your caps last longer and it makes them work less hard.
No
So,
shit.
like, something new. That's something I never tried it until recently. The Bandolero, I put it on the Bandolero, and my video is so clean. It's frighteningly
Crispy,
clean. Yeah, it's frighteningly
awesome.
clean. And on a big quad, that's harder to do.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you get into even higher voltages.
Sweet, man. I thank you for the power lesson.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just, those little things. Because, like, I've seen people are, like, losing their minds, can't understand, like, why their rig video especially is dropping out, or, like, if you're getting dropouts on punch, that's a really good indicator that your cap is either not at the right value or it's not working right. Something of that, it's a brand new cap. I just came in the package, blah, 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 blah. Like, it doesn't matter, dude. Pull it off and test it. Because until you do that, you just don't know. And they do come bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
All right, man. Well, I think we're going to call it a night on that. We're hitting right around 2 hours.
Word.
I want to thank both of you guys for coming on. I'm going to put your channels in the description after the show.
Thanks,
And
man. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, no problem. It's been a pleasure.
And thank everybody that showed up to listen to us ramble.
Yeah, no doubt.
We love you guys.
We've got Skadoosh on next week at 9, so look forward to that.
Nice.
And the week after that, we've got Trappy on.
Oh, shit.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
Post Tango 2 release, so he can show it off for finally.
Finally.
For those of you that don't know, there's
I've not seen
tomorrow
any of
morning
these
in New
leaked
York.
pictures, man.
You've not seen the leak pictures?
Before
Not
you
at
cut
all.
it, I just want to say I've held the Tango 2. I've seen the Tango 2. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. New York time, I believe, they announce it, which is public information. So
Yeah.
y'all get to see it tomorrow. I'm excited for you. Because a lot of the guys have had them. So yeah, it's cool.
That's why I can't believe, like, I was in Atlanta, I don't know, a couple months ago, and Stingy had just gotten his, and it was like the one day this dude's not out of town.
Yeah.
And I was so hoping.
Oh, man.
So hoping to get a sneak peek, man.
Real quick before we go, I want to give a shout out to the chat. We've got B-Rad, Ben Crashin, Double A, Dragoneers, Do4, Flinoceros. Hey, what's up, Flinoceros? Hawkeye, John Hart, Freakin', Takias, T5401, The Lazy Rocket, Tony Briz, and Vicious Vice. We appreciate all y'all for tuning in for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, the Tango 2 live stream will be tomorrow on the Team Black Sheep Facebook group, the lounge. And then it'll probably be like recast on YouTube too. They've got a TBS Live YouTube channel as well. So if you guys want to check out the Tango 2, make sure you tune in tomorrow. Until then, we'll see you next week. Thanks and have a great night.